When you think of firefighters and fire stations, you might think of bright red, flashing lights, trucks, extension ladders, high-pressure hoses, sliding down poles. You just gotta love it. Today, we're going to take you inside a fire station with an interview with their battalion chief.
Hi, I'm Jay Zolkowski. I'm a battalion chief with Unified Fire Authority. I've been with the organization for about 18 years now, just over 18 years. Enjoy it quite a bit. I've been with, had an interest in the fire service ever since I was a boy. My father was a captain in Eugene, Oregon, worked 36 years in the fire service, and my grandfather was a volunteer with the fire department prior to that in Springfield, Oregon. And so just kind of been almost a family business, if you will, and I've really enjoyed my time in the service. I've served many different capacities: a firefighter, a paramedic, captain at a station level, but also worked in several administrative jobs, and currently working as a battalion chief out of Station 118 in Taylorsville. And as a battalion chief, I'm over 6 different stations. I have 2 here in Taylorsville, 2 in Kearns, and 2 in Magna, with great captains who basically manage the store, and I just kind of go and help make sure everything's taken care of on an administrative level, as well as any needs for the firefighter. I'm a battalion chief with the organization, and basically what that means is, with that title of battalion chief, you're one of 2 things. You're either out in a battalion with several stations and overseeing the station operations via your captains, or you're over a bureau, whether it be fire prevention or logistics. And so you take on just as much of an administrative role as you do a firefighting role. In fact, a lot of people don't want to promote to battalion chief because you are more of an administrator than a firefighter. And for me, it's been good. I've enjoyed it. We have in our organization about, I want to say around 600 or so employees. 20 of those employees are battalion chiefs. We have 5 assistant chiefs, 1 deputy chief, and 1 chief. So what is that, 26 chief officers or so, and let's see, I want to make sure I get it right here. We got 20 and 5 and 2, so 27 chief officers, so for a crew of about 600 folks. And so yeah, you take on a lot of different responsibilities. Right now my role as battalion chief, I'm out in the field. I have 6 stations. I'm also a chief liaison to the city of Taylorsville, which means I'm responsible to the city. Unified Fire Authority is made up of 7 different cities and all of the unincorporated areas of the county, and so we have to have different chiefs at the city levels in order to make sure all the needs are met for their administration. What makes me unique? I don't know that I'm so much unique, but I have been given some great opportunities within the fire service. As mentioned, I've been on with the service for 18 years, and I've been able to take on a lot of different various roles. 4 different administrative roles prior to being promoted to battalion chief, and no, let me correct myself. 3 different roles prior to being promoted to battalion chief, and on the day of my promotion I was brought in as the logistics bureau chief, and with that came a lot of responsibilities. So back to the original question, I've been able to serve as the public information officer. I've also served as an operations captain in administrative levels, and also an inspector in our fire prevention bureau. And I think all of those, coupled with my field experience, have brought me a great wealth of understanding, a well-rounded wealth of understanding within the fire service. There's a lot going on in the world, whether you consider it truly a global level or national or community. Obviously we can't change the world, but we certainly can change the world around us, and I think that's what firefighters in general try to do every day, is make just a little bit of a difference. Kind of sounds cliche-ish, but it's true. You never know what you're going to get on a given day. Someone calls 911 because for whatever reason it was an emergency to them, and we respond and try to make it right and try to make it better for them. In relationship to the community specifically, I know a lot of firefighters do try to get involved in other avenues and other aspects, not just on what they do for a living, but maybe find another avenue, a way of plugging in and trying to make a difference. I've got the great opportunity of being in the city of Taylorsville, being a member of the Taylorsville Exchange Club, and it's a service club in which we try to get involved in the prevention of child abuse. We also sponsor different community events. We're the lead sponsors for the Taylorsville Days Parade, and so there are other things that we can plug into besides just our community service as far as our jobs. Personal philosophy, I've struggled as you get older, and constantly you're evaluating and thinking back on where you're at and where you've come from and where you're headed. Just recently, some of those questions came to mind, and I was given a challenge by our chief to come up with a personal mission statement, and it was during that time that I came to this realization that my life has been and really does need to be about influence. The opportunity to influence, whether it be in my home life, in the community, at work, at church, whatever it might be. Do I have that capability, and am I taking the opportunity to influence for good? And not only that, but without worrying so much about the reward that comes with it. I think earlier on in my career I was always doing something to pad the resume or make sure that whatever the next step was, it was in preparation for something bigger and better. And I've come to learn that you don't necessarily have to work for that motive. While they may not necessarily be mad motives, I think there is something more pure to be said about doing it because it's the right thing to do and for the right reason. And again, to have influence on the next generation up and coming. When I'm out in the fire service, a lot of my time is spent with family, probably like so many of us all around the neighborhoods and communities. I've got 4 children, and they keep me very active. I like spending time with my extended family as well. Annually, we have a little Eastern Oregon elk hunt that we go on with my dad and brothers and some close family friends. As I mentioned before, I like to serve in the community outside of the fire service with my activities in the city, and I've been the chair for the Taylorsville Days Parade for the last 7 years, so that keeps me busy from about January through the end of the parade, come the end of June. So just a lot of different activities. Stay busy. Right now I'm prepping for a marathon in Park City, and the good news is I lost a little weight. The bad news is I hope I'm ready. Entering the fire service or any community or public service type job, it used to be no one wanted to do these jobs, and so the competition was very lean. There wasn't much by way of competitions. The pay wasn't all that great, and the educational background wasn't really necessary. It was more of on-the-job training. Things have changed, obviously, in the day and age in which we live, and so my advice to anyone that really wants to get into this or any other public service related job is you've got to get your education. First and foremost, obviously, stay in school, get your high school diploma or your GED equivalent, but then continue on. There are a lot of different branches and avenues within public service. The fire service alone has several, from basic emergency medical to investigations to inspectors. You get your heavy rescue technicians. All of this requires additional training, which you receive through either a formal education process or through certification programs. And so that's my recommendation. Stay in school, continue to get more education. That alone will help prepare you as you get ready to take the exams to enter the fire service, or by and large any other public. Can you expect to make a decent wage? Yes. Entry-level firefighters these days, start out in the 30s, mid-30s, and there's overtime opportunity. Now, whether that's great or not so great, I suppose each person in the audience here will have to answer that. A lot of firefighters do, when they first come on to the job, have a second job. Our schedule is such where we're on for 2 days straight, but then we're off for 4. That in and of itself becomes kind of a nice benefit. A lot of folks like having that kind of time off and leave it just as time off, but others who want a little bit more of an income do in fact get a second job. As you make your way through the ranks, though, as you get your specialties and as you promote to captain or battalion chief and you make your way up the ranks, of course the salary gets better with each pay grade and stuff.
Questions? I know that some of that we've gotten on the internet already that people wanted me to ask when I said that we were going to interview the battalion chief. It was about the UFA, I believe it is. Some states just have fire departments. Some
Right.
places are just city firehouses. I noticed that in this area, it's Unified Fire Authority.
Mhm.
What is that? Can you tell me anything about that?
You bet, yes. Formerly, everything was done as a Salt Lake County Fire. The Unified Fire Authority used to be called Salt Lake County Fire. And for the Salt Lake County area, all of the unincorporated areas of the county were a part of Salt Lake County Fire, as well as some of our contract cities, where we had contract cities, Draper being the first one that joined in as a contract. We had a couple other cities that were incorporated, the city of Taylorsville being one of them, and all of these received their services through Salt Lake County. They loved the service, but wanted to have opportunity for say in determining policy and also how the money was spent. So many of our governmental folks got together and said, hey, how can we do this better, and what model can we form so that we no longer have just Salt Lake County dictating how things are done, but how we can come together.
That makes sense, and that's how it became Unified Fire Authority.
Correct.
That's interesting.
They brought all that together. The unincorporated areas of the county were formed into a district, which meant it had its own opportunity for imposing a mill levy tax, and that's how the fire service is paid for within the unincorporated areas. But we also have many of those former contract cities that have joined in as unified. Not only do they have the opportunity of wearing their unified fire hat, but if the will of the people is such that they want to join the fire district, they can also do that and wear the fire district hat at the same time as being a member of the unified. So it's basically just a way of forming a conglomerate. And so instead of having 7 or 8 or 9 different fire chiefs with their municipal fire services, you've got a way of bringing it under one umbrella, if you will, and kind of working together in that regard.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Now, it's not to say that it's necessarily better. That's why the political folks get to determine what they think is the best for their citizenry. It's just in this area and in areas throughout the county, they felt like unified was probably the better way to go.
Hey, Jay, something else I noticed with the website, the Unified Fire Authority website, is different stations are listed with different equipment. I think this one was listed with, I think it's a ladder truck, I don't know what it's called, and paramedic, and the other ones have search and rescue. Is it unified? Do you share the equipment, or, I mean, what can you tell me about that?
Yes. Well, each of our stations have different equipment based on the needs within the jurisdiction that they happen to be responding from. And then we also, as mentioned earlier, have a lot of different specialties within the organization. We have hazardous materials teams, we have heavy rescue teams, and this goes on and on. Paramedics, firefighters, and all of these have different nuances in which they're able to respond and help the public given them the emergency. So, with that said, you brought up Station 118, where we're at. It has a ladder, and so the firefighters here specialize in various functions, the capacities from ventilation to high aerial operations. Some of our other stations, the heavy rescue stations, they can do responses to persons that are injured or down in a manhole. They can package them right to get them up and out. Someone stuck that's on a billboard. They just those specialties there. The day and age in which we live, a lot of chemicals out there, so we have hazardous materials technicians. We have stations that are based actually here in the West that respond to those needs. So it basically just depends on what the need is as to who we send throughout the valley, and they can go anywhere in the valley, especially those given specialties.
That's very effective.
Yeah.
Maybe if you have time, we could take a look at some of these neat toys.
Absolutely.